I said, in 30 days, I want to be in charge of a national sales organization.
You've lived like a million lives, dude.
I always let go of things too early. Otherwise, I'd probably be on my yacht right now.
Aaron, I like this. This is going to be fun.
Life is a pitch. It's simply that. It is a pitch, and it is fun. Let's make sure that you're being sold what you want and you're selling what you actually want to sell. I really just love selling. It's the easiest thing on the planet if you believe in yourself. Let's buckle up. By the way, my name's JL. This is Sell Anything.
We're here with Aaron Bear. Aaron, in 18 months, is that the right number? 18 months, you created the National Association of Sales Professionals and took it to 60,000 members before you sold it off. What on earth is that? How did you do it?
Okay, well, let me take you a little bit back to kind of give you the genesis story. I was in a manifestation of, and I said, in 30 days, I want to be in charge of a national sales organization. And the next day, I got a knock on my door, and someone said, at that time, I was running this thing called Jobbing TV, and it was the largest employer television show in the world. And we were growing it here from Phoenix. We went to 27 cities. And I would go out and interview salespeople and say, what's your sales career? How'd you get here and do these different things? And so through the sales community, I grew this thing and sold to a lot of different people. And what I sold was the fact that I could make people famous for what they did for a living. So literally I sold to the ego, and people bought it like crazy. Went from 0 to 5 million in a year here in Phoenix alone. And during that 30-day period, though, I was out talking to these people, and then so-and-so talked to so-and-so and said, hey, you got to meet Aaron. He's like one of the best salespeople I've ever met. He's helping all these salespeople like kind of stake their claim of fame.
Right.
And all of a sudden I get another knock on the door a few weeks later from a judge that said, hey, I run the National Association of Sales Professionals, and I found it, and it's this little organization, had a really bad website. And he said, I want you to take it over because I've heard so many good people. I've been asking around who would run this national organization. So in 30-day period, I went from saying I want to run a national sales organization. I didn't define that enough. I wasn't probably thinking of the National Association of Sales Professionals, to then getting the keys of this really small organization that was local here that had a lot of local members and had some national members. And I owned a digital strategy firm after that, but I built a new website, I built a social network, I built a certification, I built peer-to-peer certified. So what I realized is people could take a test and say I'm a salesperson, but they were terrible at sales. So I made it kind of like martial arts, where I put them in groups, and then peers had to pass them. So all that grew really, really quickly. And 18 months later, that thing, grew like a weed. And I was like, okay, now this is like operational. Like, I'm not interested. I wanted to go on to the next startup idea. So this was one of the 12 things that I have sold in my life. I failed at more than those. Okay. So I want people to understand is like my successes and my failures, not in my successes, right? So that is one of my biggest, short-term success stories. But I always let go of things too early. Otherwise, I, probably be on my yacht right now if I would have kept it. So.
Aaron, I like this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So there are like a handful of things that stick out from that I'm curious about. Manifestation. Like, that's a big deal, and a lot of people are aware of it, but they don't actually know what it is. But it sounds like if you were able to go and say, hey, I'm going to run a nationwide organization of salespeople, and within 30 days, all of a sudden you got the keys to this little minor kingdom that you then turned into an expansive kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us about manifestation just for a second.
Yeah, I mean, when you realize is that a lot of people experience the world experiences me.
Okay.
So when you realize that your world is just as you see the world sees you. Right. And when you walk into a place and you have that charisma and that feeling that you can make an impact on that situation, whatever it is, it's like this room, like what our conversation, right? All of your listeners, like I want to make an impact on them anybody that listens to this, I want them to see, okay, anyone can do what that guy did. And they
Right.
can.
Right.
But you have to have the belief system that the life is unfolding for you. Is
Right.
whether something good or bad happens, you define whether it's good or bad. So when things bad happen to me, I immediately turn them into things that give me strength or give me focus or resolve to help me further focus. It's just giving me the direction, the parameters to say, okay, this didn't work this time. Let's do it again in another way. And we'll figure it out as we go. And
Yeah.
that's if you really look at sales in general. The best salespeople in the world are because they're disciplined, persistent.
Yeah.
In all reality, if you take a disciplined, persistent, bad salesperson, they'll outperform a lazy, good salesperson.
Agreed.
And it's just a matter of also over time, it's almost impossible not to improve yourself
Yeah.
if you're aware of your metacognition,
Yeah.
your thought of thought.
Yeah.
And then if you become the observer of your life, when I walk into a room and I was like, how do people observe me? How do people, feel that energy that I'm giving off? Then you start to realize is like, oh, okay, life is just lived one moment by one moment. So it's really easy if you let go of the past, you live in the now, and you
Right.
think bigger about your future. And that's where my life is just continually unfolding exponentially.
Yeah.
And I attract a lot of people like yourself into my life that
Yeah.
I have another belief system is whenever I meet someone, they always introduce me to the most important people they know.
That's awesome.
And then what happens is like, it just happens. Like, I mean, I can drop that out there and now it's there.
Yeah.
So in the back of your head, when you have meet an important person, like they got to meet Aaron because we had such a good conversation.
Wild, man. That is a very, very good definition of manifestation. Huge. That's awesome.
It's
Now,
easy.
it is super. I agree with you. It actually is really easy. One thing I also noticed as you said it is maybe I needed to be more detailed in what I was asking for. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think as you grow up, you learn to what you want. And I think as you're young, you just want what other people have.
Mm.
But when you chase other people's dreams, you're not chasing your own. And I think for the longest time in my life, I, modeled myself after other people. I have this mentorship, is a very big thing for me. And I'm actually building an AI mentor now called Baryons. But when you look at mentorship, it's not the people that come into your life that mentor you.
Mm.
It's the reflection of yourself that you see in them. It's
Yeah.
your inner mentor that actually takes you and helps you grow and learn. And once you become that observer of that, then everyone that comes in your life, like this conversation is going to be, you'll be a mentor.
Yeah.
But in all essence, I myself, everything happens internally. It doesn't happen externally. And that's where I say the world experiences me.
Yeah.
Meaning that's going to make an impact on some people because they're like, oh, okay, I never thought about that. Because you do control how you see everything. Like if you go out and I have an 11-year-old son that has special needs.
Mm-hmm.
And when people ask me, because I talk about mentorship a lot, and they say, who's your greatest mentor? And I'm like, my 11-year-old son. He has a disease called Lee's disease,
Mm-hmm.
potentially terminal disease. He doesn't know he has it.
Mm-hmm.
And all he knows is love. So
Cool.
when he walks outside, he's all like, Dad, you see the blue sky? And he's like, he has a simple mind that when you live in gratitude,
Yeah.
then your life unfolds towards that gratitude. So when you put good energy into things, just good things happen.
Yeah.
And that's like whatever bad happens, like say someone cuts me off, I'm like, man, that saved me from something later. Like, why would I get mad? Why would I let someone impact my day? Because it is our opportunity moment by moment to kind of live to our fullest. And I couldn't think of anything better to do, be here talking to you.
I appreciate that, man. And I am loving the depth of this so quickly. So
We can go deep.
we can go super deep. I think that there are so many directions I want to take that, but we're launching part of the Sell Anything is we eventually will launch the Sell Anything Academy. And one of the principles of it is everything external is just a mere reflection of what's going on internal, even towards the objections that you're getting from your people. So if you're getting some kind of objection from a person, it's not their problem. It's something internally that you're projecting out there, and you're just getting the reflection back. And if you can resolve the conflict that's going on inside, you'll find that you get it's always a yes. I'm always getting a yes, because the way I'm showing up is it's like, well, why wouldn't you do it? This is just kind of like your program that runs internally of, well, they're always going to introduce me to the best people, because that's just what I think. And if you can show up to each interaction, each sales call that way, it's like, well, of course you're going to say yes. This is what we do. Like, what I have to offer is what you need, and what you want is what I have. So this is great. So that's cool. But
Yeah, I think it's, part of what you're saying is it's being a good listener.
mm-hmm.
I think when I did a lot of sales training, different things, you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. And that means you should probably talk 20% of the time. The rest of the time you should listen with your ears and eyes and really observe what's going on.
Right.
And ask questions to really understand what do they want. Because if you're just going to go pitch someone, and this is where sales is easy to me, is like never get caught selling. Like everyone's in a buyer funnel. Like everyone's always going around. We're trained to buy, and we're trained not to get sold. So a lot of salespeople get in the way of their sales.
You got nuggets just coming out your mouth, man, all over.
Hey, this has been my life. So when you realize is that people are always in a buyer's process, and if they're spending time with you and they know you represent a company and it doesn't matter what you talk about. And a lot of times I sell by building a relationship and exhausting the questions along the way. And then, I think the best close that I have is like, what's next? And they start telling me how they want to buy and all this. And it's like they walk themselves in, because in essence, people sell themselves on what they want with their time, with their energy, and with their money. Mm-hmm. And if it's worth a value exchange, all you have to do is exceed that value. And part of that is like, if I come into people's lives, I do know that I'm going to mentor them, I'm going to grow them well beyond whatever product or service that is in front of me. Yeah. And that's where right now I'm investing all my time in an AI mentor. Okay. That the idea is that it'll scale mentorship. If you have, ChatGPT type knowledge, like we have AI knowledge that in all large language models, we tie into all of them. And if you have infinite knowledge, that's not anything to sell anymore. But you have to know how to apply that knowledge with wisdom. And that's what I've done as a facilitator, as a coach, as a mentor my whole life. So it's like we built this model to not scale me, but to scale that mirror you're talking about, that reflection of self.
Yeah.
Like the best mentor for you is someone who's 2 years in front of you telling you, hey, this is how you build your identity to be here now. And now I can move you from 2 years in front of you. I can do that in 2 days. 100%. If your identity shifts, you literally then, manifest that new, personal reality, that personality that you can basically grow yourself into very, very quickly. And that's part of what we're growing right now. And it's all learned from my career in sales, because you are a reflection. Like you said, every objection that comes to you is objections you have inherently troubles like getting over. And once you don't have any objections and you understand like this is the right thing for the right person, they'll sell themselves.
100%, man. Have you read the book or heard about the book Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy?
I've heard of it. I don't know that I've read it.
Yeah, it's you basically, and this is no disrespect to him, but you distilled the entire book into what you said of you can be your future self now, essentially. Like 2 years from now, that's your best mentor. Let's bring it 2 days.
Yeah.
So
it's about identity. I think the biggest thing is identity, belief, values. Like you live, everything else is like your ego is always wanting to keep in your comfort zone. Your comfort zone doesn't mean it's comfortable. It just means your norm. Yeah. So your ego is like, hey, you don't want to do that. It's going to bring it back. If you can shift your identity, your ego is like, oh, I need to be here.
Yeah.
And egos are healthy and they're good. You have to have them in check, but it's like once you shift yourself, your values, your beliefs, like to just what I just said is I just believe money comes to me easily. Yeah. And when you have that belief, like what do you think happens? Is like I have more opportunities than I know what to do with. And I think for the longest time that actually that hindered me. Where now I've kind of realized is like I have to focus on the identity I want to be 2, 5, 10 years, and think longer term and bigger about myself. because when I was, in a way, caught in a hustle, is like everybody wanted a piece of me because I kept creating opportunities. Now I'm focusing that identity around something much greater than just, helping individuals. And that's where all of a sudden I'm building a mentor that has a 7,000 person wait list on this mentorship model. And we're going to exponentially grow, which my, if you know me, know a little bit about me, I wrote a book called Exponential Theory, The Power of Thinking Big. It was a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller in 2020. And ever since then, that helped me really think through all these exponential thinkers, how they thought bigger about themselves and how they manifested their worlds, because I was fortunate enough to be a facilitator in boardrooms and rooms with Jeff Bezos and even Steve Jobs and Elon Musk during my career as a facilitator. And you just realize when people think about themselves and their identity in a different way, it shifts everybody to that. And that's, in a way, it's a way to identify charisma. Is like when you actually know who you are, everyone else in the room does too.
Dude, another nugget.
Yeah.
That might be that whole thing in this episode. Just little nuggets. You're just dropping them along the way. And that is incredible. So you did say a couple other things. So 12 successful exits or ventures. You didn't give a number of how many failures were before that, but then you said all my successes are from my failures.
Yeah.
Speak to that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I've always been enamored with the idea of creation, right?
Okay.
And if you really think of the human element of what we are, most of, there's a study by NASA by a guy named George Land in 1968. And he wanted to find, how do we find the geniuses of tomorrow? So he went to 5-year-olds and he did this creative test. And he did the test and he found out that 98% of 5-year-olds are geniuses. And so over the next 15 to 20 years, he kept doing these tests on these people as they grew older. And, by the time they were teenagers, it was down to like 30%. By the time they were 18, it was down to 12%. And by the time they were 25, it was down to 2%. So what that tells you is kids, when you're 5-year-old and you're going out and you're like, what do I want to create today? They could be a rock star or a astronaut. It doesn't really matter, but that creative genius is in them. It's innately a human thing. Our school, the Industrial Revolution, beats that out of kids to say, hey, follow these rules, do these things, and literally hampers the creativity. So I've always been one to go back to design. I taught at Stanford D School in design thinking and was a professor at ASU and Singularity University at NASA. And during those times of teaching, like what you realize.
You've lived like a million lives, dude.
Well, yeah, because I just manifest.
That identity keeps shifting.
It has, and it's a good thing because it's made life interesting, and it's brought interesting people into my world. And I mean, I've traveled to 103 countries. I've been to every state. I mean, I facilitated a lot of those, and that's the one string is I've gone into rooms and created communication. And I'm a comedian, so I do comedy, and so all these different things are just about how do I create a better self? How do I express myself? How do I be more creative? And that then leads to every startup now that I'm doing is more creative, and I'm more committed for longer periods of time. And that is making the exponential difference, because the reason Jeff Bezos was able to create Amazon is because he didn't want to create it in 3 years, like every other startup person out there.
Okay.
He had the long-term 20-year vision of what it needed to be.
Okay.
And then it far exceeded his expectations. Just like, Elon Musk, in my book, I really talk about a blog post he wrote in 2006 about Tesla. And he predicted what it would be in 2020, but he didn't predict what it would be today.
Okay.
It went far beyond like what he even thought. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, he wanted to create a site to be popular at Harvard. He never thought that it was going to have 2.5 billion people on his platform.
Right.
And that's the beauty of, you have to continue to expand your mindset. And that's where today I think the biggest promise is AI as a mindset, is that AI can mentor you better than anyone ever, because it's all knowing and knowledge. And once it gets context of who you are, and the more you feed it the information, and that's where like I'm thinking on a whole nother level because of AI, because for the first time I use AI first, meaning I go to AI and I say, hey, help me define all the variables and help me think bigger about this. And now that you know me, and you know where I want to be in 10 years, what would I do today if I could shift my identity there?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's like, here's your highest value activities today. And that's what my AI mentor Baryons does.
Okay.
So all of a sudden I'm now literally living in my future now. So to Benjamin Hardy's book, I'm doing that every day.
Yeah.
And you realize that's accessible to every person in this world for relatively free. But I would say the $20 version of ChatGPT or Baryons, and there's a lot of other AI large language models that you can tap into
Yeah.
to really kind of explore this and kind of learn about yourself, because, you know, who better to know as you feeding that in and getting the mirror back is that you start to listen to that. You'll start to grow and learn at a pace you never thought you were able to.
You know, it's funny that this is even a part of the conversation because I didn't know it was going to go in this direction at all. For the last probably month, actually, I've been doing just that. I've said, okay, ChatGPT, this is what I'm faced with. If you were me and we needed to be here in a year, what are the steps I need to take to get through that? And it is pretty mind-boggling.
And then just keep committing to memory. Just say, hey, will you remember that for me? Will you remember that for me? And that's what we do with our because we have our mentor does text, email, and voice. So you can call it up and have a conversation, and it, you know, if you just builds a memory. And our memory is infinite. You know, ChatGPT has a very certain memory. It's pretty large, but once you have the context of, you know, how to have relationships with AI, like human intelligence is always going to be the thing that creates new things. Like AI will create an ability for you to have new thoughts. It's not necessarily creating new things. It's extrapolating things from what it knows. So the fact is human intelligence bound to artificial intelligence is really going to create the executive or the leader of the future. Whether you're an entrepreneur or in door-to-door sales or whatever, there is a better way to do it. And, you know, I think about it this way. And like, if you think about companies of the past with generative AI coming out, this is even for salespeople. I had a company and I remember looking in my hard drive and there's 3,500 PowerPoints. And I'm like, I wonder how much time was spent creating all those PowerPoints. And this was before AI. This is literally 10 years ago. It was a job board that I had, and we would go out and make these presentations and create all these customized PowerPoints. And I was like thinking, like, man, there's so much wasted time in here. How could we just template? How could we get this so it just worked?
Yeah.
And today with AI, what I believe, if you have a mentor like a Baryons or ChatGPT really Pro.
Is Baryons an up and running app now?
Yes, we have a wait list. We have PricewaterhouseCoopers, IU Health. We have, you know, PodPro. We got a bunch of different clients that are, have used it, have updated, and we're building a wait list to kind of have, we'll have tranches of people kind of coming onto it. So
how do you get in a tranche? How do I get in the tranche?
Sign up at baryons.ai, BARYONS.ai.
Okay.
So it's, but regardless, if you just think of AI in general, you know, generative AI, we probably won't in the future. Like I'm saying that we won't have databases of our past. We'll let go of our past. Like I said earlier, we'll be in the now.
Yeah.
And then AI mentor will help us think bigger about the future. So all of a sudden, instead of going back to like, hey, I ran this RACI model, or I went and did this SWOT analysis, let me go find that template to go do that. It literally will be created on the fly because contextually it knows me personally, professionally, and it knows the organization I work for if I can build that context. And now it's going to tell me what my highest value activity is for that organization. And that's where when you start thinking about it is we all waste a lot of time doing things that really don't help us and probably even hinder us, you know, and it's like if you analyze good habits and bad habits, and nobody's perfect, and we shouldn't desire to be perfect. You know, mistakes are how we learn.
Right.
And to the question earlier, just to tie back to that, is my successes are in my failures. Is the only reason I started becoming more and more successful is because I failed quite often. And I was fine with failure. I was, you know, really happy to fail.
Yeah.
And it should be celebrated because in a company especially is if everyone learns from failure, then you have less failure.
Right.
You'll never have no failure. In fact, in all my companies, failure was a bad word. We actually started, people put money into a jar and we'd have parties at the end of the month if anybody said failure. But can or try as well. Those other words, they're powerless words.
Yeah.
Yet what we say is you either win or you win or learn.
Yeah.
There's no other thing there is. It's like, well, what'd you learn?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that sales call didn't go well. What did you learn?
It's huge.
It's, the win-loss is a little thing, but it's like, to me, it's win-learn.
I agree. I 100% agree. There's a lot of things that you've said that make me think of, I'm assuming you're familiar with NLP, neuro-linguistic
Yeah,
programming.
no, I'm a master practitioner, and
Me too.
yeah.
Awesome. So the whole idea of there's no failure, just feedback, right? Like, but then also, as you were talking about AI, with Roger Bandler saying our greatest limitations are the things we just haven't considered. It's not what we've tried and failed; it's just what we haven't considered. So, as you're feeding AI or taking time to get calm and get still and think and connect to God, or just what have I not considered, and asking those questions, it's powerful. It moves the needle forward really, really quickly. And then to have a tool that's a mentor to help do that, that's awesome, man. I think that'll be revolutionary. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's my belief system, and as you can see, it's really important to me how I think and how I believe.
Absolutely.
This will change the world, and it'll be part of a movement of many, many different technologies. But when I go talk to investors, and it's been relatively easy to raise money for it, and especially with our traction, but when I really go out and kind of think about how it's going to be successful, it's because you really look at this team. When a team is all focused on one objective, and I'll introduce a kind of an idea that we have around this. It's called, your IQ and your EQ probably, or you might have a rough idea. Well, we've created something called AIQ. Is no one knows their artificial intelligence quotient.
Yeah.
Is how to use AI. And so we've built this into our mentorship because every company wants to adopt AI in a better way because they're going to win or lose in the next 2 or 3 years because of that. So that's where Baryons is really positioned well to kind of grow exponentially, helps sales organizations, it helps operations, it helps all the different organizations, but it helps it align with the overall company so everybody's moving in the same direction. We go a step further is most companies have KPIs, key performance indicators.
Yeah.
Sales are notorious for this. The problem with key performance indicators for most organizations is sales have one set of key performance indicators.
Right.
And then delivery has the exact opposite set of key performance indicators.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm going to go out and sell to a big enterprise, and then I'm going to promise them 10 things that I'm going to do for them specially.
Right.
And delivery is like, we can't do those 10 things.
Yeah.
So organizations are always in conflict. With AI and AI mentorship, what you realize is that you can create something, and I call it a quantum performance indicator. So it's where AI is helping me extend my own thought process so I can kind of create the future in front of us. And if I can raise everybody's AIQ so they use AI better, one, they're going to be more productive. AI right now, in all reality, and this is where it's chasing companies to the bottom, it's replacing low-value activities.
Okay.
We need an AI mentor to then help us get back to high-value activities, which in most organizations, and that's why your podcast is everything to, sell anything.
Yeah.
But it's everything to every organization. It's because AI and literally how sales organizations work is you'll literally implement this in a way that the salespeople themselves will go to market, and then they'll come back to the organization, have all these wild ideas or whatever. If I can get them focused on the mission, vision, value of the company, and I get all the different departments, and basically comes down to companies have 3 different things. You acquire customers, you may acquire investors, and you develop a product. It's pretty simple. The investors you can throw out because if you acquire customers, then you're going to get investors. The product you can throw out because if you acquire customers, then they're going to give you feedback and you develop the right product for them. So in the end, it's selling is what every company stands on. It's why I've had success selling 12 companies because I can sell anything.
I like it, man.
And in that, now
we're
it's
very aligned in our thinking.
Yeah. And then in that, where you realize is like if you can get the whole organization to have a quantum performance indicator, which is selling customers and then keeping customers. That's all every organization is for. Like I don't know that any other organization, there's any other reason for them to exist, is to solve a problem and satisfy their need over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you think about it in that way and you start to line up what an AI mentor can do that we've never had before, it can whisper in every ear of every person in your organization to align them with that goal every day.
Genius, man. Really? And so I don't want to make you commit to anything yet. When is this going live?
It's live.
Like, but when are the tranches going to be allowed in?
We're going to grow predictively. You know, I
Yeah.
always, in my book, Exponential Theory, I talk about first you have to get repeatable. So we're repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on our push-pull. So right now, like ChatGPT Pro,
Mm-hmm.
is you have to basically put information in it.
Mm-hmm.
Our mentors will actually pull information out of you. We'll ask questions, and then as we get to know you, we'll create team knowledge and enterprise knowledge,
Okay.
and then we'll pull you towards that QPI.
Okay.
And our goal is to reinvent the world with these two things. So AIQ is something that I invented, it's being patentable. QPI as well. So AIQ, our whole goal is not only just like AIQ to sell, but it's like relationship quotient. You know, your social quotient, your physical quotient, your financial quotient, your spiritual quotient, your mental quotient. All these different, you know, areas where we start to judge.
Yeah.
If you use AI to kind of grow those areas and think of a spider chart, then you start growing your whole self, and that you'll never ever be full in every area.
Right.
As you grow in one area, it might decrease in another or whatever, but your use of AI in all those means that you'll learn and grow at an exponential pace, and you'll get there faster. And that's where, if I can get everyone focused on a QPI, is the same as an ikigai. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a Japanese term for purpose.
Okay.
And if people,
How do you say it?
ikigai,
Ikigai. Okay.
and that purpose term is the same. If my personal, professional, and organizational purpose is aligned, I am going to be an MVP superstar salesperson.
1,000%.
And that's what AI mentorship will do for every employee. And it'll actually help people coach people out. It'll coach them in or coach them out. Because in the end, it's going to help them find where their purpose, where they add the most value in the world, because that's what we all need. We don't need to be in organizations that we don't add the most value. We need organizations that get us inspired. It's like TGIM. Like, there's not a Monday morning I'm not excited. There's not a Friday I'm not excited. But that's the beauty of life. I don't even know when the weekends happened or don't. My whole life is just built around, you know.
I'm just pumped, man.
Yeah,
I'm just happy to be
having
here.
fun. I'm just like going from one conversation to the next. It doesn't matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you just realize, like, life's unfolding and opportunities are always unfolding in front of me.
Absolutely. I love that. So now this has been the theme of the podcast is we'll talk like we've been talking. And then I like to start to pull back. Earlier, we used the analogy of taking off the pump cover. You know what that is in bodybuilding?
Okay. No.
So a pump cover is like a big baggy shirt. The guys will wear until they get into the gym and they get a few sets under them, and then they're pumped up a little bit, and then they're like, now I'll take my shirt off and show you what I got.
You know, it's a really good thing I didn't know that term. That's cool.
So now I want to kind of pull off the pump cover and say, okay, so you've got an 11-year-old son. More kids? How many kids you got?
I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 kids, 12 exits. I'm still like, what are they? Can you just rattle them off? Like, what?
I mean, it goes from, you know, very early on, a strategy company called Complete Strategy. I had a Profiles International.
Okay.
I was part of jobbing.com. You're gonna get me caught up here. I had a firm called Buzzmouth, which was a digital strategy firm that we had an accelerator in.
Okay.
And so we built a placement company. We built an event company called Event Mob. We built. I'm just trying to think of all the different things, but it fast forwards is like it starts down to a company called Purposely Career Tours.
Okay.
You know, a lot of career oriented different things.
Okay.
And those all accelerated, and then now like we've built. You know, right now I'm involved in probably 4 or 5 AI companies. Like I'm selling an AI sales company. That was the genesis of what Barryons is.
Okay.
But it was focused towards tutoring sales. It helped us learn how to communicate the communication model between AI and human intelligence to kind of there. So now this sales organization is something that I'm looking to sell. I have another HOA.com. We're going to, you know, the future of community. Barryons is the future of work, because I actually see that if you have an AI mentor, you'll meet with your AI mentor in the morning. It'll actually then talk to your agentic workforce that'll go work for you. And then at noon, it'll again talk to it again. And then it'll go talk to it again. And then all of a sudden, your exponentially giving results to your organization, whether you're in sales or whether you're a leader. And I have this
Yeah.
concept that we're likely to build a podcast around called 1000X, which in a 3-year period, I believe
way bigger than 10x of Grant Cardone.
Yeah, no, great. little Grant.
Yeah.
But it's 10x around the person,
Yeah.
10x around the team, and then 10x around the organization.
Mhm.
You can, so an 1000x executive literally thinks 1000x bigger. And I believe in 3 years, we're going to be required to do that with the amount of growth of AI that we're doing. So every person on this planet has to be aware of how to start raising their AIQ and how to take an organization that's focused on their QPI. And that's where I'm very focused in everything I do. Is if there's another organization, I advise a lot of different companies, I'm going to go in with my mentors, I'm going to go in with AIQ and QPI, and I'm literally going to help them focus on their highest value activity. And you're going to watch them execute on their results better than they ever have before with least resistance, because my mentor is going to pull out all the best ways and communication modalities so that person actually does their job in the best way they can do it. Not the way, there's not one way to do things. We have to actually find our natural way. And that is the future, because we are completely customizable. And it goes to health span. I've had a few health companies, so I didn't finish my 12, but I have many more companies than that. But I have a health span company. I was involved in a stem cell clinic in Costa Rica. I'm involved in a frequency company in Park City. I'm on the board of Vail Health in Vail, Colorado. So I have my hands on a lot of different things.
A lot.
And the reason is because I come into the room with this mindset.
Yeah.
And I expand the mindset of every room I walk into.
Superpower.
Just super focused.
That's another nugget right there. Superpower, super focused. It makes me think. Someone once said, the most powerful version of me is the most present version of me. And when they said that, I thought, that is the most simple thing I've ever heard, but one of probably the most profound things I've ever heard. That makes a ton of sense.
Everything happens now. There's nothing happening. Everything in the past is gone, and everything in the future is only relying on how you think right now. And it's really the thoughts. Like I have a chapter in my new book, which is called The Greatest Mentor of All Time. And people probably think that's egocentric, but what the greatest mentor of all time means, it's you are the greatest mentor of time, because it's really talking to you is like, you are your mentor. So if I can help you with the right questions with AI and with a bunch of different mentors to help unfold your world so that you understand like, oh, this world is my world.
Yeah.
I can create what I want. To think is to create. We are our habits, what you resist persists. When you start to learn these very universal truths, which actually tie back to the Hermetic laws, 2,500 years old, and mystic times, you start to really learn this philosophy, you realize is that life's pretty simple. Like if you just live now,
right,
and you like take every moment and you think bigger about yourself, you put that energy out there and you start attracting things in. And that's why I love going on podcasts, because it creates all kinds of random opportunities from random places.
Right.
That I never thought of, because I'm just literally projecting out this belief system that it's either going to resonate with people or there's going to be people that like it doesn't resonate with because they're not comfortable with themselves and seeing. But if you see something in another person that you like, take that. And that's why everyone's a mentor. That's why 11-year-old son's my greatest mentor.
Right.
Where, Tony Robbins, I don't relate to him as much as, I'm not Tony Robbins. So the great thing about baryons, and what I often say is like, we often don't relate to mentors because we say, oh, well, that's because he's Tony Robbins. Well, when you use your AI mentor, it is you looking at you.
Yeah.
And you realize it. It's just like Google search creating an algorithm to predictively sell you something. It tells you what you want to buy next without you knowing what to buy it.
Yeah.
Now the algorithm, when you give it context in all these AI models, it's giving your future self. And you just got to keep asking it like you have in the last month. And then you just got to keep building that bigger and bigger. And then it's like, oh, okay, I can get a little ambitious with Aaron. I can help him think bigger. And that's where my writing has gone exponentially better, because I'll write and then I'll triangulate with AI and I'll say, help me think, well, what would I write if I wrote the same article in 2 years and I wanted to be here in 10 years? What would I write? Gets creative.
Smart, man.
Gets creative.
Smart. So each guest that comes on, I get like a sheet that Brady provided. Like they send you this thing, you fill out your information on you. I will say this, and this is with all the respect to everybody else. Your sheet is the most incredible. Like your little like, here's who Aaron is. Here's what Aaron does. Here's the successes. Like, did AI make that? Did you make that? Did you have a PR company make your? Do you know what I'm talking about?
AI made it, if anything made it. Yeah.
It's incredible, man. Like,
I'm a doer. You just do things and you manifest things. You live like there's nothing like I've turned down 2 trips in my life, and it's not that I regret them. I mean, who knows? Something might have happened that would have changed my life on that or whatever.
yeah,
But whatever is meant to be, nothing's good or bad. Like, so it's just like, I don't mind failure. So to answer your question earlier that I didn't get to answer is like, I failed at twice as many companies as I succeeded at.
okay,
So you can count them up, 24.
yeah, that's easy.
So that's where when you ask me the 12 is like, I learned more from the failures than I did the successes.
I think that's how we're programmed to be,
Yeah.
right? Like, because it's just a recalibration of like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that worked. Okay, keep going faster. Oh, but yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me.
Things are
Okay.
going too well. Like, and I'll say I always had limiting beliefs. Like a limiting belief, this is an interesting limiting belief is, I always believed that I never worried about money, and I always believed I had enough. But when you break that belief down, I never was able to create legacy type exponential wealth. I've changed that belief.
Good.
I'm on a different path.
Good.
Because I always made money. Like I never worried about it because it's like, oh, and I never had months that I didn't make $10,000 and I didn't know where it was going to come from.
Yeah,
And I've always been an entrepreneur, right? I've always like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to see what unfolds in front of me. And I really do trust that. Yet I had this limiting belief. So when you get rid of that, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now I'm building an exponential AI company that has a 7,000 person. Now its valuation is in the tens of millions of dollars.
right,
It's going to be in the hundreds of millions. It's going to be in the billions.
right.
I'm on a different trajectory.
100%.
And it's a belief system. And it comes from that limiting belief, getting rid of that limiting belief, which honestly, to 99% on this planet, is a pretty good belief. It's like, oh, I always have enough. It's no big deal. It's just a good attitude.
It's a sufficient belief.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's a sufficient belief. It wasn't serving my legacy and, really to make a bigger impact, which with all the things and all the things I've overcome in my life, and as much as, we've talked about my successes, it's like, I haven't had a hard life because I haven't chosen to define it that way.
Yeah,
But someone would.
yeah,
Someone would have been a victim their whole life. Yet
Yeah.
I just kept moving forward. And
beautiful.
not everything in my life I didn't define as good or bad. I just defined as learning or winning.
Yeah,
And I've won, and I've learned more than anything.
Yeah.
I have a funny thing on my LinkedIn. If you go to my LinkedIn, I have this blog post about me owning Buzzmouth, and I go through it. I'm like, and I kind of share all my failures, and I just, it's kind of it's like a humor, but I'm like, yeah, I spent several years on Amazon, helping them get from 2 days to 2 hours.
yeah,
I bought a Tesla in 2014 for $96,500. If I'd invested that in stock, it would be worth $40 million. I facilitated a Bitcoin panel in 2011. And if I'd have I got paid $10,000 to facilitate it. And they're all like, just put it all in Bitcoin. And I was like, I'll just take cash. I bought 2 Bitcoin for like $25, forgot about it.
yeah,
Sold it in 2019 or something for 60,000 or whatever when it was then.
Yeah.
It was the first high or whatever. But today, if I'd have put that 10,000, that's another $50 million. So
yeah,
like those are all just fun.
Yeah.
When you look back, and everybody, like some people would like commit suicide over something like that. And I'm like, when you really look at it, it's like, no, I wasn't meant to have it that easy. I was meant to be right here having fun doing what I'm doing.
But it checks out with your program, though, man. It
Yeah.
checks out with that limiting belief of I just have enough.
I have enough.
But now that you've rewritten it, now it's why you're aware of it.
Yeah,
Now-
show me the next Bitcoin. I'm going to invest
Yeah,
in it.
now your mind's
I've been throwing money at all those
Yeah,
things now.
Yeah, no,
because-
it checks out. Your mind's like that program doesn't work anymore. It was sufficient. Now we need the ones that are serving us.
you know what? Man, I really did struggle, and I was just happy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. People are so fascinating, and especially people who understand what you understand on how manifestation works, how like dude, I get so almost dumbfounded because there's very few people that speak at the depth of it that you speak at, but like the observer is the creator as well. Like once you understand as you're observing it, that you're also creating it. And if you can get those two to marry together, it's like, oh, the game just changed. This becomes.
Yeah, life's easy. I mean,
Yeah.
and especially when you don't, so many people want to play a victim. I say like life happens to me. I was like, it's
Never.
life that happens as me, through me. It's like you're creating a world. Like, you go through a breakup. This is what I always say. I feel like I'm in the relationship with the love of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I felt that before, but like nothing like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, you realize is like, oh, wow, I'm really glad I'm glad that I, learned something from this. Like I said, I don't fail, but it's like,
Yeah.
you realize is like, then you don't put so much energy into negativity. It's like, oh, okay, I just need to learn something. And I realized I had a series of relationships, and this gets kind of on my personal side.
Yeah.
Where
Taking off the pump cover, dude. That's what we're doing now.
Yeah. I got it off. I'll get naked. My last name is Bear, for God's sakes. But,
Yeah.
you have a serious relationship. You're like, okay, these things are like very repetitive because I
Mhm.
wasn't learning
Yeah.
the one thing I need to do, and I've done that. And now I've fully blossomed. My relationship quotient or whatever has really kind
Beautiful.
of grown. And I think that's where, in every area of your life, if you realize that you can think bigger about who you are as an identity. And I think what we're all really focused on, and what I wrote, is one habit. And there's a chapter in my book, and it's called One Extraordinary Habit.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one habit on this planet that you have, and you've said it, I don't know, 5-6 times in this podcast, but it's to raise your vibration.
Mm.
And the raise your vibration, the way I think is, it's the cross section of authenticity and confidence.
Mm.
And if you're authentically confident, and goes to your pump cover comment, is like for a long time, I'll give you a little story about my weight loss journey. 5 years ago, I weighed 320 pounds.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, I was out on the road traveling, and
I get it.
I was
Yeah.
literally 2 weeks a month. I was facilitating around the world. Coming home, my circadian rhythm was off.
Yeah.
So 2019, I say to make a difference. 2020 just helped me so much because it got me off the road.
Yeah.
But in that process, I realized is that as I got in the gym, I had imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Fast forward to going to F45 for 800 different days in a row.
Yeah.
You start to learn is like, okay, there was a point that I didn't have imposter syndrome. There was a point that I knew everyone in the gym. There was a point that everyone expected me to be there.
Right.
There was a point that my happiness was around that community. There was a point that I started becoming authentically confident in my body and who I was and and it helped me make better and better decisions for my physical quotient.
Right.
That also helped my emotional quotient. That helped my relationship quotient. That helped me. Everything starts to grow when all tides rise, when you start building that. So when you find authentic confidence in an area of your life, you can find it in any other area of your life. You just have to choose that.
Right.
And I think the discipline that I had there was like, I'm just going to go to the gym every day. And
Yeah.
I'm going to start eating whole foods and healthy. I started intermittent fasting. I just started reading about biohacking. And that led me, honestly, that's why I'm on the board of Vail Health and Stem Cell Company and Frequencing Company and all these different things. But it comes back to this one extraordinary habit, is that if you can become authentically confident, which means that your energy vibrates at a higher level. And there is actually scientific proof that when your energy vibrates at a higher level, people actually become, they want more of that. And that's where when you say charisma or someone walks in the room, and when I had these exponential leaders, when I was in the room with Jeff Bezos,
Yeah.
you realize like the energy changes and everybody's attention goes that way.
Mm.
And the feeling that they must have from that and the power that they have because of their words mean so much,
Mm.
you realize that any one of us on this planet can actually do that.
1,000%. These are incredible insights. Like you've taken a lot of time to really understand you, so that your authentic confidence is there, and the vibration is high, and the energy is high, and it's magnetic.
Like I said, if you know who you are, everyone else is going to too.
I like.
So after this podcast, like hopefully people know who I am, and hopefully they can take a little bit, whatever. If there's a little bit of me that it can help them, that's why I share everything. Like there's no proprietariness here. This is like me figuring it out, and I made more mistakes than anyone. That's the only reason I got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So a question that I like to ask is, is there anything that I didn't ask that you feel would be very helpful to share with the audience to help them keep moving forward, to be a little bit more sold on themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you have to, it goes full circle to how we kind of started this. It's as you start to question who you are, and I think it's a question many people don't ask, and then you start to realize is that I always ask the question when I'm mentoring people. I say, where does a thought come from? So where does a thought come from?
Where does a thought come from? I think actually all thoughts, all behavior, everything that we experience as humans is a learned behavior, but then we got to question it. The awareness comes from, in my opinion, getting still and saying, okay, where did that come from? Where did I learn that?
So you said it earlier, it could be God's source, it could be
Yeah.
quantum physics, it could be a lot of different definitions of that.
Right.
And when you sit in that and you understand that your intuition, your gut, we say trust your gut or follow your heart.
Yeah.
The problem is we take a thought and then thinking is dangerous. We start thinking about it.
Okay.
Now we start applying all the limiting beliefs, all the limited experiences in all of our life to that thought. And before long, we have a negative perception of the world. And then we wonder why our world turns out that we're victims and there's negative things happening. When you clear out and you know who you are, and you get to a place of like, I guess Buddhists would say like this emptiness and meditation where you have clarity of why, I'm on this microphone right now. I know I'm perfectly imperfect and I'm exactly in the place I need to be because every decision I've ever made brought me right here to this chair.
Okay.
I'm responsible for my actions, and absolutely my future is only defined by how I can create it.
Okay.
That's created from thoughts. Thoughts are dropped in from somewhere. Who knows? That then we generally think them. But what if you just thought, and this is where that everything's going to work out, and nothing is good or bad. It just is. What can you learn from it? Where did you win? What can you celebrate? And if you literally understand that life just unfolds in front of you and you take that idea that a thought just comes to you. Generally, thoughts are a good thing.
Right.
But we don't accept them. We think of all the things that could go wrong with that thought. How many people in a relationship go into a relationship? And it's what I've learned in all my failed relationships is like, well, what if this just works out? How many people go into a relationship saying that?
Yeah,
and then,
nobody. Yeah.
And then think about the confidence of just saying to your partner is like, you're going to be my girl. And if you say over and over, like, they're like, I'm going to be his girl.
Yeah.
And then you realize is like, you manifest, like you are a mirror to whatever relationship. So when you look at them and they see your self-love and then they see your selflessness, now you have magic. Now you have a future. And this goes to friendships, relationships, whatever, but like in a romantic relationship, then it's easy because like you're not playing with a mask. You're not playing with a facade. You're not trying to wear, your
pump cover. Yeah.
You're just literally getting raw. And at the end of the day, what it comes back to is what I kind of end this is like authentic confidence. And when you know who you are, you're not afraid to share it. And if someone doesn't like it, that's great.
That's all right.
I know, and this is the one thing, I hope a percentage of your listeners don't like this. That's a good thing. Because guess what happens in social media? And I've worked with Rob Schneider and Damon John and a lot of different famous people and helped them, kind of with their strategies.
Right.
And the people that dislike them are what make them viral. It's not the people that like them.
Really?
Yeah. So I hope some of your listeners are like, ugh,
who is this
guy's
bear
too
guy?
positive. This guy, where did this guy come from?
Interesting.
But at the end of the day, if they do that, we got a winner. So you out there, please dislike me.
That's the most negative thing he said all day.
Only because they're going to get more people to like me.
I love it.
I worked with Phil Mickelson for a long time, and he was the underdog because he choked at the Masters and, personally worked on his social media and his business and different things. And he's a very private person, but wasn't necessarily the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
But people loved him because he was the underdog. And then he stayed the underdog even when he wasn't the underdog, because for so long people were ingrained like to root for him because of his failure. And then he was on top for so long, people loved him for being on top. It wasn't necessarily that he was this genuinely, authentically nice person, but he was authentically confident.
Yeah.
And, he was like him and Tiger, which I worked a little with Tiger too. Him and Tiger were like in the PGA, some of the worst people to play golf with because they had such authentic
confidence.
I
love it.
Maybe a little ego in there. And I don't know how you become the best in the world, but you got to be driven to another level.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to learn from, and you can take something from everyone. And I took something from all these different people. I've been around a bunch of characters in my life. I will say that.
You've had a good run, man. And it's just getting started.
It's just getting started.
Yeah, we're just getting started, man. But it's what you've accomplished so far that has been incredible. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything.
Yeah, like anytime.
I do enjoy
I love selling anything.
Selling is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to conclude on and just bring back to the idea of being a mirror in a relationship and that self-love aspect that you said, because it was deep and it's profound, but we just kind of went right over it. But if I heard you correctly, if you are a mirror of self-love, meaning you love yourself genuinely from a place of authentic confidence, then it empowers whoever you're with, whether it's romantically or a friend or your partners or the person that you are selling to. It empowers them to do the same, and that's when things just get easy. The resistance goes away.
Well, you're vibrating at a higher level, and what you resist persists, and resistance is a big thing. Is people have to then get comfortable being around you, vibrating at that level, and then you'll know you found the people to be in your circle. And at the end of the day, you are the culmination of your 5 closest friends. So choose those wisely. Choose those really, really wisely. And when you're around good people that have good intentions, you start to, for lack of a better word, which is a word that I'm not a big fan of, but the synergy between when you get 1 + 1 = many, when you found a partner, a life partner, a spouse, when you find a business partner, that you really get to this level of depth. Don't surrender that. Like, just grow with those people. And when you grow, and I think the other thing for young people in sales and older people, it doesn't really matter, but young people in particular, is understand your career is a marathon.
Yeah.
And along the way is build and protect your reputation and do everything that's good for you, for the company you work with, and for the people around you. And if it costs you to kind of move on to the next job, just understand it's going to pay 10x, 100x, 1000x dividends in 5 to 10 years to stay focused on becoming authentically confident in that craft. And that's where sales has been my life. And it's led me on to, lots of stages and facilitating and all that, but it all is at the root sales.
Yeah.
And it's me not selling anything. It's just that I'm creating a communication process that everyone's buying. And when you grow that and you just think longer term about where you're going to be, like you have a 20-year plan and those kind of things,
right?
Go further out, because at the end of the day, like if you want to get in shape, my goal when I got in shape wasn't that I'm going to be in shape next week. It's that, I want to be here in 10 years.
Right.
So then all the decisions you make every day, it's like it gets easier and easier to make those decisions. So the habits you have, we are our habits, and enjoy every moment and live in the now. And when you kind of like start to realize you're growing, and what most people don't understand, just like a fish doesn't understand they're in water, is like you're always growing.
Right.
And you might not necessarily grow your financial quotient, but it'll grow over a period of time when you start to calibrate and you start to understand as all these things rise, is have a long-term vision for yourself. And my first question is, where are you going to be in 10 years? I went to my daughter's high school and I spoke, and it became one of this very viral social media posts within their high school, because I literally challenged all these kids for the first time. It's like, where are you going to be in 10 years? They're all going to be 26 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could be anywhere in 10 years.
Yeah.
They're just thinking about like next week.
Yeah.
So when you get your head wrapped around 10 years from now, then you realize like one girl, like, I'll break this down because it might help. It's a really generic observation, but she's like, I want to live on the beach. And I was like, well, in 10 years, you want to live on the beach. So, okay, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
And then but what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't know. I've always been, and she started talking about all these things. I was like, well, could you see yourself owning like an 8-plex on the beach and you live in one of the units?
Yeah.
And she's just like, that would be perfect. And then she's like, could I make enough money doing that? I was like,
Probably.
if you choose to do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do I need to do that? I go, you need to start thinking, planning, and building your identity around that today.
Yeah.
And that'll happen probably faster than 10 years. And that's what always happens with any of my clients, my coaching clients or people I mentor, is like, I'll say, give me your 10-year goal. It always happens in 5 years.
I love it, man.
Because once you have clarity around it, it just happens. Like then your awareness, and if you really think about your subconscious gets reprogrammed. And then you start to see all these little opportunities that kind of pop up. And then all of a sudden, you're faster on your path than you ever thought it'd be. And then you meet the right people. And I'm looking forward to see this girl. I think I'm feeling like I'm going to be on a vacation with my wife and kids in California. I'm going to walk down this beach. I'm going to see this girl sitting on her 8-plex saying,
I could see it happening, man. I could see it happening. Powerful. Aaron, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming out and chatting. And I'm really excited to see what happens with the mentorship company.
Well, have me back. I'll give you an update. We'll get you on.
Please.
Barry On's AI Mentor.
I appreciate that. And then, dude, this is great. This is a great conversation. I just, gratitude is all I'm feeling. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thank you.
You're a mirror of my gratitude.
Well, thank you.
Touche. Thanks, Joe.
And my pleasure.